to the Adventures of Cosmic. I'm Cosmic, and today we are going back into our Blackmore Sisters. If you haven't seen the last two videos, I suggest you go watch those, because we got a lot of shit to catch up on. So far, we're on Grave Mistake. So if you haven't seen Deadly Intentions, I remember these, Buried Secrets, Dead Tide, Dead and Buried, and Dead Wrong, go watch them. And if you haven't seen any of these, start with Dead Wrong and continue on. These are really long books, but they're really good books. So before we start with the books, I'm going to show YouTube this email, if it will load. Thank you. And anyway, don't mind, that's just, yeah. And as you can see, I got permission. So anyway, we are going to get into the book. Please, as a reminder, go watch the last two videos, because those two are the main. And I have full-on permission to use this book. So we're going to... So I appreciate everybody who has given support. If you guys have any suggestions on what I should do for other videos besides my podcast, go ahead and leave comments down below. And if I have a keyboard and I've been doing some stuff with that. I put like letters on my keyboard, like not like keyboard like down here, not like that, but like keyboard as in like piano kind of keyboard. Okay, we're almost done. This is how much we're into the book, and let's get started.
Doors been closed the whole time. Oh, wow! Belladonna sprang up, as if she knew she was being discussed. She raced around the edge of the room, leaping into the air and batting at invisible foes. She did that this morning, too, Fiona said, and she batted one of my earrings into the crack under the wall, right where she is now. Jolene watched the cat as she snaked one slim white paw under the crack in the wall, twisting and turning as if she was prying something out. And then, with a shriek, she whipped her paw out, sending a small object spinning into the center of the room.
Whoa.
My earring! Fiona stomped over to the object, stopped its rotation with her foot, then picked it up. I don't know what gets into her, Morgan said. Me either. Fiona held the earring up. It was an intense emerald green color, with black lines that glowed in the bright morning light from the window. What's that made of? Morgan asked. Malachite. Fiona angled it, and the light shone through the center, giving it a nearly translucent green glow. Isn't it pretty? It's gorgeous. What an amazing green, Morgan said. Yep, it's one of my favorites. Fiona palmed the earring and headed toward the case. Wait a minute. Jolene felt the hairs on her arm raise. It's green. It's the prettiest green I've ever seen. The sisters stared at each other with wide eyes. The mortar and pestle isn't glass or brass. It's malachite, Celeste said. That makes perfect sense, Morgan said excitedly. Malachite is a stone, so it could easily be imbued with powerful healing properties, just like the obsidian amulets or Fiona's carnelians. Jolene pulled out her cell phone and checked her email. Brody sent me the lists from the museum theft and the fire. She opened the email and downloaded the two attachments, then opened the first one. All the mortar and pestles stolen from the museum were wooden. There's nothing green. Maybe it's at the police station, Morgan said. That would be convenient. Celeste picked up Belladonna, who seemed unusually willing to be held. Jolene opened the second attachment. Oh, good. These are all categorized. Let me look under the mortars category. Let's see. Cherrywood, cast iron, porcelain, marbles, stoneware. Jolene looked up at her sisters. Nothing green. Morgan pursed her lips. If it wasn't stolen from the museum, And it's not at the police station. There's only one other place it could be. The rubble from the pharmacy on the Finch farm.
Whoa.
Chapter 19. Jolene pulled the door open, letting a gust of cold wind into the shop. Come on, let's get out to the farm. We don't have any time to waste. Whoa. Morgan held up her palms. Let's think this through. We don't want to just run around like chickens with our heads cut off. Right, Fiona agreed. If we're going to dig in the pharmacy, we should get Swain. He can organize it to make sure we cover every inch. Plus, we need to drop someone off. Morgan tilted her head toward Belladonna, who was purring contentedly in Celeste's arms. Jolene sighed and closed the door. Okay, fine. But let's hurry. We don't want Bly or anyone else to get a jump on us. It was only a short ride to the Blackmore home from the shop. Jolene couldn't help but notice Morgan's periodic uneasy glances at the side view mirror. They parked in the driveway, and Celeste got out first, still carrying Belladonna, with Fiona following right behind her. Jolene pulled Morgan back a few steps. Is something wrong? No. Morgan glanced back behind them. I don't think so. I'm not sure, but I feel a bit uneasy. The faster we get digging and recover the relic, the better. No kidding. That's what I was trying to say at the shop, Jolene thought as she followed Morgan inside. Up here. Celeste poked her head over the railing from upstairs. Jolene went up, following the sounds of voices to a room at the end of the hall, the one she'd helped Joanna set up for Swain's mother. She peeked in cautiously, her heart leaping into her throat at the sight of the sallow, shrunken woman in the bed. Is she okay? Jolene ventured. Swain chewed his bottom lip, which Jolene noticed was raw. His face looked wan, his tan seeming to have faded overnight. She's holding her own, Joanna said from the head of the bed, where she was holding a spoonful of something goopy to the woman's lips. Annabella, these are my daughters. The woman's eyes fluttered open. They were sunken and hazy, but Jolene could see a tiny spark inside. A will to live. Her heart fluttered. They had to help this woman and give her a chance to get better. Hi there. Your mama and Gunnar told me what's going on. It sure is nice of you girls to go to all this trouble to help me. I don't know how I could ever repay you. Her voice was weak, barely a whisper.
Oh.
Oh, shush, no repayment necessary, Joanna said. Well, you people must be magic, Annabella said. I haven't felt like eating in days, but this stuff you're feeding me is giving me my appetite back. That's Mateo. Joanna winked at Jolene.
Ooh!
At Annabella. He cooked up something special for you. Jolene's brows pulled into a tight V.
Ooh!
Mateo's here?
Ah!
He's downstairs in the kitchen.
Oh.
Joanna nodded toward the stairs.
Ah.
Go see what he's cooking up. Yeah, I should do that.
Oh my god!
Followed the smell of cinnamon to the kitchen, where Mateo stood at the stove. He didn't see her at first, and she paused in the doorway, wondering why his broad shoulders and dark curly hair made her heart flutter. Hi, she said finally. He turned, looking at her with velvety brown eyes. A smile spread across his face. The contrast of his pearly white teeth against dark skin seemed to
Ew. They're so gonna be together.
This guy, Jolene wondered, then gave herself a mental headshake. The last thing she needed was to get all woozy over a guy, especially one that can't be relied upon to stick around. What are you cooking? She asked. Oh, just something my grandmother used to make for me when I was sick.
Aww.
He wiped his hand on the black apron.
He's so cute.
Slim hips. How is the search going? Mateo's brows climbed up his forehead, as Jolene told him how they'd figured out the relic was a mortar and pestle, and their theory that it might still be buried in the remains of the burned-out pharmacy. That sounds promising. His face turned thoughtful. You'd better be careful, though. Bly's guys are in town. The bearded guys? Yep.
No, not those guys
Well,
again.
They already attacked us, and we kicked their butts, Jolene said proudly. Though, that was before I got clonked with that tree and lost my powers. Jolene's stomach constricted, and she looked down at her hand. Would she ever regain her special gift?
She probably will.
Mateo's face creased with concern. Have you regained any of your gifts? Jolene's heart skipped. She didn't know if it was because of the look on Mateo's face or because she was just as worried as he was about the loss of her paranormal gifts.
Aww.
She sucked in a deep breath. I think so. At least my memory seems to be better. She motioned for him to step aside. Stand back. Jolene closed her eyes and flexed her fingers. Then she pointed toward the kitchen door. She focused on her energy, concentrating, straining, and then she felt it. A little tingle at her fingertips. Not as strong as the feeling she usually got, but it was something.
Yes.
She pushed the energy out and then stared down at her fingers as a small blob of greenish-blue energy dribbled out and plopped onto the floor.
Aw.
She watched in disappointment as the ineffective blob shriveled up and disappeared.
Aw.
Tears pricked the backs of her eyes.
Aw.
I guess my command of energy isn't coming back as good as my memory. Mateo took her hand in his and looked deep into her eyes. Don't worry.
Aw.
It will come back. You have to believe that it will.
Aw.
She looked down at her tiny, pale hand.
Okay, guys. Okay. I love Mateo so much. If they're not together by the end of Spellbound, which is the last Jolene book, I will cry. This theory has to be right. Oh my god. If the epilogue is like they start dating, oh my god. It'll be so crazy. Imagine it happening. And I'm like, please be together. And oh my god, imagine they are together. Because like, okay, so Mateo is already fully introduced. Now, here's my theory. Because, he'd be very sweet to Jolene. And it's like, making, and it like, I don't know, he just is overly, he's a very sweet guy. And I think Jolene deserves a guy like that. I hope, I cross my fingers that this like feeling she gets stays, and then they're together by the next book. Oh my god, wouldn't it be crazy? I'm excited and I'm nervous. So let's hope they're together, because I want them to be together. They deserve each other. I love Mateo and Jolene together. Wouldn't it be cute, guys? Trust me on this one. They need to be together. I continue before I rant. My boyfriend knows I rant, don't you? Yeah, he knows. If you're watching this, you know this.
His large tanned one. Would it come back? Of all the sisters, she had the most powerful defensive skills. Her sisters were counting on her to use her gifts to fight off Bly's minions. But what if she couldn't come through for them? Morgan cleared her throat from the doorway, where she stood holding up a burlap bag. Swain gave us these tools for the dig. He's meeting us after his mom is done eating. Let's get a move on.
Okay.
We have to get to that pharmacy before Bly figures out the same thing and beats us to it.
Oh, yeah.
Chapter 20.
Aww.
Fiona followed her sisters across the barren landscape of the Finch farm's front yard. In the distance, a pile of rubble and black boards stuck out of the snow. She pulled her scarf tight around her neck and flexed her fingers inside her gloves, glad that she'd worn her warmest pair. The pharmacy hadn't been big, about 10 feet by 15. Thankfully, they didn't have a lot of ground to cover. So, what do we do? Celeste surveyed the area. Lay it out in grids or something? Did Swain give you any instructions? Morgan shook her head, then glanced back over the yard toward the road. He should be here soon. Well, I'm not going to just stand here and wait for him. Jolene stomped her feet to increase circulation. It's too cold out here. Let's start digging. Where do we start? Fiona asked. In the west, of course. Jolene headed to what would have been the west wall of the pharmacy and jumped down into the depression in the ground. Fiona followed her, her heart sinking when she saw what a mess it was. All I see is a pile of dirt, rocks, and burned wood. Well, the police did take most of it. But since we are actually looking for a rock, I think we better start sifting. Jolene was already on her hands and knees, picking up rocks and tossing them aside along with charred timbers. Fiona noticed Jolene's hands were filthy, but her black parka didn't show any dirt. She looked down at her own purple jacket and grimaced. Wishing she had been smart enough to wear black too, she climbed down into the hole next to Jolene and got to work. Morgan's phone chirped. She looked at the display and swore under her breath. It's Luke. So, don't answer, Jolene shot over her shoulder. He'll just keep calling if I don't. Morgan sighed.
Just answer the fucking phone, Morgan!
Hello? Who told you that? Swain. Oh, yeah. Well, we are here, but... Morgan held the phone out from her ear, and Fiona could hear Luke yelling through it.
Oh,
Fine. Send Gordy and the guys, but I'm pretty sure we weren't followed. Morgan's eyes drifted across the field to the road. Fiona followed her gaze, but she couldn't see the road. She remembered the black truck that had been following them earlier. Were Bly's paranormals out there somewhere, waiting to attack? It was probably a good thing to have Luke's guys watching over them, just in case. Fiona turned back to her digging, and Morgan's conversation with Luke faded into the background. She shoved a timber aside, and a portion of it flaked off, disintegrating in a puff of black soot and spicing the air with the smell of charcoal. Her fingers grew cold, despite the heavy-duty gloves, and she pulled one glove off to blow warm air on the tips. She eyed the stones in the rubble. Picking a few up, she hefted them in her hand, feeling their weight. Would she ever be able to use them as weapons? She glanced at Jolene. What if her sister never recovered? She'd have to do something to fill the hole in their defenses. She clenched her fist. The jagged edges of the rocks cut into her palm. She could feel the rocks getting warmer. Did she dare open her hand? Did she dare believe in her paranormal abilities? She brought her hand up, the fist still clenched. Her fingers started to curl open. Hey, look at this! Jolene's excitement-tinged voice diverted Fiona's focus. Her hand opened, and she dropped the stones into her pocket while she scurried to Jolene's side. Jolene was standing over a shallow hole she'd excavated, holding a big rock in her hand. It was covered in soot, looking just like every other rock out there. It's just a rock. Celeste came up behind her and looked over her shoulder. I don't think so. Look at this. Jolene brushed away some of the soot, and Fiona could see the rock was tinged with green. Then Jolene turned it over to reveal the other side, which was smoothly polished with a deep well in the center. Deep enough to be used as a mortar. Morgan gasped and reached out for the rock. Jolene handed it over, and Morgan held it in her right hand, rubbing the smooth surface with her fingertips. The polished side was beautiful swirls of green with some black mixed in. This is it.
This has
Morgan
to be it.
stared down at the rock.
Yes. Now you have
It's
to...
the mortar, the relic. No wonder the police missed it. It just looks like a rock, Celeste said.
Where's the pestle?
Yeah, especially on the unpolished side. It was lying face down, wedged in between two boards. Jolene's voice was edged with wonder. And it's been sitting out here the whole time. But where's the pestle? Morgan asked.
Where is the pestle?
They all looked at Jolene, who glanced down at the hole. I didn't find one. Well, it's got to be here. Morgan crouched down and started sifting through the dirt. Fiona and Celeste followed suit. 1 hour later, Gordy and 2 of Luke's guys had come to guard them and been put to work, but no pestle was found. There's got to be one.
Somewhere.
Morgan threw down a rock she'd picked up, thinking it might be the pestle. The mortar is no good without it. Right. When 2 become 1, the healing's begun. Jolene quoted the epitaph. It won't work unless the remedy is made with the mortar and pestle together. Well, it's not here. Fiona brushed dirt and soot off her hands. We've looked through the whole thing. Maybe we didn't do it methodically enough. Morgan glanced out at the road. Where is Swain? He should be here helping. Fiona stepped back up onto level ground and surveyed the rubble. It shouldn't be hard to find because of the shape. It wouldn't look like a rock, like the mortar did. It would be shaped and polished. You'd think it would stick out like a sore thumb. Well, if it would stick out for us, then it would stick out for anyone. Jolene pulled her phone out and started tapping on the screen. The list of items taken from the pharmacy fire is categorized. I didn't see the mortar and pestle, but if the pestle was found by itself... Yes, here it is under miscellaneous. Rounded green scepter. Possibly some kind of polished rock, 5 inches long. That sounds like it. That's the length it should be, Morgan said. They must not have realized it was a pestle because they didn't find the matching mortar. So it's at the police station? Celeste asked. Jolene shrugged. Seems that way.
Asked.
Morgan tucked the mortar in the crook of her arm and turned toward the car. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go get it. Chapter 21. The inside of the No-Quit police station was quiet, which wasn't unusual. Seeing as there wasn't much crime in No-Quit, especially in the off-season. Morgan had given the mortar to Gordy and had instructed him and the guys to meet them back at the Blackmore house after promising they would head there themselves just as soon as they got a look at the pestle. Jolene didn't think Brody would let them take it. They'd probably have to resort to other means to get it in their possession once they verified it really was part of the relic. This is from years ago. I don't know. Brody gave the girls a sideways glance. The evidence room is pretty disorganized, and this must be way in the back. Surely no one will mind if you just bring it out for us to look at. Jolene leaned her upper half over the counter that served as a receptionist desk to look in at the rest of the station. It looks like no one is even here. Brody glanced behind him. Not sure if I should. Is there some official request form? Jolene whipped out her cell phone. I'll text Jake and see if he can get something official filled out. And if that doesn't work, I'll have Luke get it through his government contact, Morgan said importantly. Brody's eyes narrowed at the mention of his older brother. He knew Luke worked for a clandestine government agency, and Jolene could tell he didn't want to get on the wrong side of his brother or the government. Well, okay. I guess it won't hurt to let you guys have a look. He turned and headed toward the door that led to the back of the police station. You guys, stay out here.
Alrighty.
Morgan's face registered disappointment at being left in the lobby, but they stood out there dutifully as he disappeared into the inner sanctum of the police department. Fiona and Celeste sat in the orange plastic chairs that lined one wall. Morgan paced in front of the door, and Jolene tapped her fingers impatiently on the counter while they waited a long 20 minutes for Brody to return. Just when Jolene thought he'd forgotten about them, The door opened, and Brody appeared.
Oh, yeah, we got
His
point.
face was red, and a bead of sweat clung to his upper lip. Brody, what's wrong?
Is it
Morgan
missing?
asked. That item you were looking for? He looked down at the floor, a
No.
mixture of concern and embarrassment spreading on his face. It's missing.
No! Shut the front door!
Shot Brody an incredulous look. What do you mean, missing?
No!
It was here. He ducked back behind the door and pulled out a box with a loose-leaf notebook on top. He opened the notebook to a page of photos and pointed to one in the middle. It was obviously a malachite pestle. The pestle, the second half of the relic. This is it, right? Morgan nodded. Yes, it looks like it. Well, as you can see, all the items were photographed and cataloged. Brody pointed to the loose-leaf notebook with the photos in it. So, it was here. But when I looked for it out back, I
Couldn't find it.
Are you sure? Maybe you missed it? It's not that big, Celeste suggested. Brody pushed the big box toward them. Look for yourself. These are the only items back there from the Finch case. Jolene frowned at the box.
No.
That doesn't seem like nearly as many items as were on the list. Could some of the items have been filed away somewhere else or returned to the family? Morgan knelt down beside the box and started sifting through the items. Anything is possible. He glanced behind him, then leaned in toward the sisters and lowered his voice. The fire happened right as Overton was taking over from the old sheriff. That was before my time, but I heard things weren't run very well at first, and there were a lot of slip-ups. These items might have been a casualty of that. Some of the chain of evidence records seem to be missing, so I can't tell where anything went. Fiona's lips pressed together. Why did you need evidence from the fire, anyway? It seems the fire was thought to be suspicious, Brody said. Near as I can tell, it was eventually ruled an accident. So, by rights, the family could have claimed all this stuff and taken it back. But since the records are all screwed up, I don't know what really happened. If the family did take it back, why is this box still here? Morgan wondered. Brody shrugged. Like I said, it seems like things weren't run properly back then. So maybe they didn't give the family everything, or maybe the family never got it back, and the rest of it got lost somewhere. Jolene turned to her sisters in frustration. So, now what? Morgan stood up. Well, it's definitely not in there. I think there's only one hope of finding out where it is. We need to talk to Thaddeus Finch. Chapter 22. Fiona drove the Trailblazer to the nursing home, with Jolene riding shotgun. Hey, I have an idea. Jolene fiddled with her phone. Maybe the pestle did get returned to the Finches, and it made its way to the museum, and then was stolen in the break-in the other day. It could be, Celeste said. I bet Finch would know if it was. Even better, Jolene said. I can just look at the list of items from my email. Is it on there? Celeste asked. Jolene scanned the list with her finger. No. Oh, well, at least we still have Finch to talk to. Celeste turned to Morgan. Shouldn't we tell Luke that we took a detour? He's expecting us to come right home after the police station. Morgan's lips tightened. We probably should, but he won't be happy. I turned my phone off at the dig, and it won't take long to talk to Finch. I'll turn it on and give him an update when we leave. Fiona pulled into a parking spot, and everyone jumped out. They rushed into the lobby. Fiona started to turn down the hallway that led to Finch's room, but the look on the nurse's face at the receptionist station gave her pause.
No.
Hi, girls. I'm so sorry for your loss,
No.
the nurse said softly. Fiona's brows snapped together. Loss? What do you mean? The nurse looked startled. Why, you were friends of Mr. Finch, right?
Yeah.
Were? Did something happen to him?
Oh.
Oh, dear. The nurse's hands fluttered to her throat. I thought you knew. Mr. Finch passed away just over an hour ago. What? Jolene yelled.
No.
He's dead?
No.
The nurse nodded. Sorry. I thought you'd already been told, and we're here to get his things. No. We came to talk to him. How could he be dead? We were just here and he seemed okay. Fiona shook her head in disbelief. Sure, Finch had seemed a little under the weather when they were there before, but she didn't think he was only hours from death. What happened? I don't know. The charge nurse went to check on him, and he was no longer with us. The nurse put her hand gently on Fiona's arm. Don't feel bad. It was his time. He passed peacefully in his sleep, it seems. It seems? Well, no one was actually with him, of course, but he was lying in bed and looked peaceful when he was found. What about his personal aide? Jolene asked. Wasn't she there? Personal aide? The nurse frowned. I don't know who you're talking about. What was her name? Morgan screwed up her face. Wendy, the girl with the long strawberry blonde hair. The nurse gave her a puzzled look. You must be confused. We don't have anyone with long strawberry blonde hair here. And besides, none of the patients have personal aides. Panic bloomed in Fiona's chest.
No.
Wendy was a fraud? If so, who was she? And why pretend to be Finch's health aide? Did she have something to do with Finch's death? And did that have something to do with the pestle? A quick glance at her sisters told her they were asking themselves the same questions. Okay, thanks, Morgan said to the nurse, then to her sisters. Let's go. There's nothing we can do here. Fiona's shoulders slumped as they walked to the car. What do we do now? I'm not sure. Morgan got into the driver's seat, and the rest of them piled in. We need to track down this Wendy imposter. This is getting weird, Jolene said. You don't think Finch met with foul play, do you? I don't know. Morgan started the car, then sat there worrying her bottom lip as she let the car idle. It's all very suspicious. What was Wendy doing in Finch's room? And why pretend she was his private aide? And what did she really want when she showed up at our shop? Fiona added. Yeah, that can't be a coincidence, Morgan said. I just wish... There she is, Celeste yelled, pointing to a lime green Kia that sped out from behind the building past them, a mane of long strawberry blonde hair flying out the window. Let's follow her, Jolene shouted. But Morgan didn't need to be told. She'd already jammed the car in gear and had the pedal.
All right, Morgan.
Where's she going? Celeste asked, as Morgan dodged Main Street traffic, which was mercifully scant due to it being the off-season. Looks like she's headed down Thurgood Road, Jolene said. I think she's going to the Finch farm, Fiona added. Damn it! Morgan laid on the horn as a tractor pulled out in front of them, slowing them to a crawl. What is a tractor doing out in November? Celeste asked. It's Nelson Brown, getting ready for his winter hay rides. Jolene rolled down her window and leaned her upper body out. Nelson, pull over! We need to get by! Nelson pulled to the right, and they swerved past him. Darn, it's too late. She's gone. Fiona's heart sank. She squinted at the empty road in front of them, searching for a glimpse of the Kia. That's okay. I just know that she's going to the Finch farm. Morgan turned down the road that led to the farm. I feel it in my bones. She took the road as fast as she could, slowing down only enough to navigate the hairpin turn without going off the road. There's her car. Jolene pointed toward the lime green Kia, sitting next to the Finch farm.
Whoa.
Morgan pulled in beside it, but it was empty, and there was no sign of its driver. Where did she go? Is she in the house? Fiona asked as they piled out of the Trailblazer and surrounded the Kia. It looks like she went this way. Jolene pointed to fresh tracks in the snow that led out across the field toward the cemetery. The cemetery? Morgan started following the tracks. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. The snow wasn't very deep, only about an inch, but Fiona was glad she had worn her heavy boots as she jogged up to the graveyard behind her sisters. As they drew closer to the graveyard, Fiona scanned the outline of the familiar shapes of the stones, looking for the distinctive silhouette of a person. But there was no one to be seen. Where is she? Celeste shaded her eyes with her hand. Is she hiding behind one of them? They mounted the steps to the graveyard and spread out, walking slowly, each of them looking behind the stones. Look! Jolene pointed toward the back of the cemetery where the mausoleum sat. Silent and cold, just as it had on their previous trips, except this time one of the doors yawned open. A cold chill skidded up Fiona's spine as she stared at the black interior beyond the door. Do you think she's in there? Morgan shrugged. I don't know what the heck she'd be doing in there, but my gut tells me we better check it out. Wait, Jolene cautioned. She could be leading us on a wild goose chase. She's probably partnered up with Bly. This could be a trap. Morgan paused. It could be. But if so, all the more reason to get in there. She knows something about the pestle. I can feel it. But we might not be able to defend ourselves. Jolene looked down at her hands. Well, I still have my killer karate moves, Celeste said. Plus we have our amulets, Morgan added. Fiona fingered her amulet. The amulets and mica refractor would help them with the defensive maneuvers of deflecting any energy headed their way. But without Jolene, their hopes of mounting an offensive paranormal attack were nil. And she doubted they could win with only defensive moves. If only I could get my act together, I might be able to help defend us. Otherwise, we might need help, she thought. Then out loud she said, maybe we should tell Luke. He can send the guys to help us out. Morgan made a face, then turned toward the mausoleum. There's no time for that. I'm going in.
At least pair up.
Chapter 23.
Like Morgan, Fiona, and the
Fiona
others left
stood
in.
in the doorway to the mausoleum while her eyes adjusted to the lack of light. This is a lot bigger than I thought,
Whoa.
Celeste said. Fiona could see. She was right. The room itself was much larger than it appeared from the outside, and it looked to have short corridors or niches that sloped downward in all four corners. She wondered how far underground it went, and hoped they wouldn't have to find out. Look, Jolene pointed to the floor, and Fiona recognized a trail of black crow licorices. Swain? Morgan's forehead creased. What is he doing here?
What is he doing?
He double-crossed us, Jolene said. No, he wouldn't. Would he?
Bruh.
Images of Swain's mother laying ill at their house flitted through Fiona's mind. Swain obviously cared deeply about his mom. Would he double-cross them when his mother was in their care? I have no idea. Morgan stepped further inside. This whole case is getting weird. Fiona and her sisters followed Morgan into the damp interior.
What if it isn't Swain?
Fiona's eyes were pretty well adjusted now, and she could see copper plaques on the walls, their faces tinged with green from age. The smell of damp earth and decaying leaves tickled her nostrils. She stifled a sneeze. What now? Celeste whispered. I guess we'll start over there. Morgan pointed to an opening on the north end, and they shuffled their way toward it. Creak. Fiona whirled around, her heart thudding against her ribcage. The door swung inward behind them, partially blocking the light. When it swung out again, a dark figure blocked the entry.
No!
Looking for this? The figure stepped out of the shadow, and Fiona could see he was holding the malachite pestle. Her eyes went from the pestle to his face.
Wait.
Her breath caught in her throat.
Wait, hold up. That voice. No, that's Bly. Shut the front door. That's Bly. No. No, actually. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. What in the world? No, that's Bly. Oh my god, what's gonna happen?
In the doorway stood one of her least favorite people, Sheriff Overton.
No, even worse.
Sheriff Overton?
The fuck?
Morgan's voice rose in disbelief. What are you doing here? I'm here for the relic. Overton stepped closer, hitching up his pants over his generous stomach with his free hand.
Bro.
A toothpick dangling out of the right side of his mouth. What makes you think?
Honestly, I prefer Overton over Bly. Thank God it's not Bly. Thank God it's not Bly. But I'm scared. I'm very scared. But here's the thing, he only has half of it. He only has half of it. But they need a bargain. They need a bargain to get the half that he has. Because they don't want it to fall in the wrong hands. That is a skill.
We have it, Morgan asked, and Fiona breathed a sigh of relief that they'd given the mortar to Gordy to take back to the house. Overton snorted. You girls think I'm stupid. I know what you've been up to. I've been checking up on you. What makes you think we'd just give it to you? Jolene asked. First of all, it's no good without this. A spark of light from the open doorway glinted off the pestle and threw a shard of green light across the room as Overton dangled it in the air. And second of all, I have something you want to trade for it. He jerked his head toward the corner.
Oh my god.
Something stumbled forward out of the darkness as if it was pushed. Fiona's heart clenched when she saw it was Swain, tied up with rope.
No.
I'll trade you Mr. Swain here for the mortar,
No.
Overton said. What? No way. We're not giving up the mortar for him. We don't even know him that well. Jolene's eyes slid over to Swain, who looked cool as a cucumber, even though he was tied up like a sack of potatoes. Fiona's eyes locked on his, and she noticed his widen. Then he dipped his head and extended his hips slightly. Was he trying to tell her something? There's only one mortar and one pestle. We can't both have them, so why not just give the mortar to me?
No.
Overton switched the toothpick from the right side of his mouth.
Here's the thing I know about Overton. Here's the thing. He's evil, and he only wants stuff for his own game. He may not seem completely evil.